In this video, I'm going to show you how to take this size large men's shirt and turn it into a square neck peasant top using this as my inspiration. So let's get started. First, remove the pocket or pockets, if your shirt has them, by carefully cutting the stitches. I also seam ripped the hem to preserve as much fabric as possible, but if you have a really big shirt, you might not need to. To cut the neckline of the top, first, pin down the pleat in the back, then flatten the shirt. Draw a horizontal line 6 inches down from the collar. Working with plaids is great because you can just use the pattern as a guide. Draw vertical lines from the sleeve seams up to the shoulders. And cut along the marked lines. Then remove the button plackets as well. To cut the pieces for the yoke, or collar, you'll need 8 rectangles, 11 by 2.5 inches. From the tail flap, cut 1 yoke section. You can use this as a guide for the remaining sections if you want. Even up the bottom of the shirt, fold it in half, then cut 4 more sections from the hem. I tried to match the plaid patterns, but it didn't always work out. From the yoke of the original shirt, cut 2 more sections. On most shirts, the yoke is made up of 2 layers of fabric. Cut the upper back of the shirt from the yoke, then cut 1 more yoke section. 4 will be used for the outside of the yoke, the other 4 will go on the inside. To cut the sleeves and extra panels for fullness, fold the sleeves at the underarm seams. Cut the sleeves 12 inches from the shoulder, then use the cut portion as a pattern for the other side. On both cut portions, remove the cuffs and open the seams. And cut 2 rectangles, 12 by 4 inches. Because the leftover fabric wasn't long enough for the cuffs, I divided them into 4 smaller sections, 7 by 4 inches. Cut wherever you can find the fabric, which in my case was from the fronts of the shirt and sleeve leftovers, so that in the end I had 4 7 by 4 inch rectangles. These pieces are all based on my measurements, so be sure to add or subtract based on your measurements or the type of fit you prefer. Also, if you have a bigger shirt, you may have more leeway in terms of extra fabric. To sew up the main seam, turn the shirt inside out so that the right sides face each other. Then sew up the front opening, which is going to become the back of the shirt. I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance, lining up the raw edge to the side of the foot to keep as much fabric as possible. To finish the seam, I used a zigzag stitch and let it drop over the edge, but you can use whatever method you prefer. Next, we're going to insert panels into the sleeves to create fullness, so cut the sleeves at the shoulder fold first. Attach the panels with the right sides of the fabric facing and pin into place on both sides. Sew the panel to the sleeve using a straight stitch and repeat on the other side. Then finish the edges of all 4 seam allowances with a zigzag stitch. Pin down or iron the seams so they don't get twisted. To make the yoke, align 2 straps to 2 horizontal sections and repeat with the other 2. And then pin them together. Sew along the bottoms of all the straps. You should have 2 yokes, one for the inside and the other for the outside. Then sew to join the straps together. Open the yokes, press the seams to one side, and place one on top of the other with the right sides facing. Sew the two yokes together along the inside. Clip the corners as close to the seam as possible without cutting the stitches. Turn the yoke right side out, then press. Top stitch around the yoke as close to the inner fold as possible to help it lay flat. Next, I'm going to sew all the areas that are going to be gathered, which are the two horizontal sections of the neckline, the shoulder sections, and along the bottoms of the sleeves. I'm doing them all at once because I'm going to use a white thread and I don't want to switch back and forth. You don't have to use a contrasting color, but it does make it easier to remove the threads. To sew a gathering stitch, use the longest stitch setting on the machine and sew as close to the edge as possible. Do not back tack. When you reach the end of the section you want to gather, turn the fabric 90 degrees, make 2 stitches using the hand crank, turn the fabric another 90 degrees, and sew a second row parallel to the first. You can also use a single row, but then the gathers will be a little bit more difficult to control. For the neck and shoulder gathers, start at one corner and go to the other. For the sleeves, start and end at the underarm seams. When I get to one of the pinned seams, I use my nail scissors to hold the seam down to sew over it. In my household, everything ends up in the sewing kit. Nail scissors, rulers, chopsticks, and mallets have all turned into sewing tools somehow. To sew the yoke to the shirt, gather the back horizontal seam so that the shirt is about an inch or so shorter than the yoke. Fasten the threads by wrapping them around a pin. Then distribute the gathers evenly. Pin the right side of the yoke to the wrong side of the shirt, leaving a ½ inch extra on either side of the yoke. Make sure to pin the shirt to one side of the yoke only, as the other side will be sewn into place separately. Sew the yoke to the shirt. I sewed on the side with the gathers so I could adjust them as needed. Repeat on the other horizontal seam by flipping the yoke over and sewing the underside of the yoke to the shirt. Then pin the sleeves to the yoke in the same way. The sleeves are kind of tricky because of the yoke corners. Start by sewing directly on the horizontal seam, back tack, then once you get a ½ inch from the corner, pivot 90 degrees, rearrange the fabric so you can continue to sew along the sleeve seam without messing up the gathers. Sew the rest of the sleeve to the yoke, and once you get to the other horizontal seam, pivot again to form a right angle and sew to the existing seam to rejoin it, then back tack. The corners don't have to be perfect because they're going to be on the inside of the shirt. Next, you can try the shirt on, and if everything looks okay, you can remove the gathering threads and trim the seam allowances if they're uneven. Clip the corners of the yokes with the gathered seams to help them lay flat. Sewing the top part of the yoke is a little tricky, so it helps to carefully iron it beforehand. Press the gathered seams inward under the yoke. Then turn up the edge of the yoke about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch and press into place. And make sure the yoke is wide enough to cover the seam by about 1/8 of an inch. When you get to the corner, make sure the edges are nice and crisp because they will be visible from the front. Pin the yoke into place. Top stitch as close to the fold as possible, all the way around the yoke, then back tack when you reach the starting point. To join the sections of the cuffs, sew along the sides with the right sides of the fabric facing each other. Then press the seams flat. Next, pull on the gathering threads until the sleeve size matches the cuff and wrap the threads around a pin to secure them. Distribute the gathers evenly. Turn the cuffs right side out. With the shirt right side out, place the cuff inside the sleeve so that the right side of the cuff faces the wrong side of the sleeve and pin into place. Attach the cuffs to the sleeves by sewing between the 2 rows of gathering threads. Make sure the sleeves look okay, then remove the gathering threads. Give the cuffs a press to make sure the seams are nice and flat. Fold the edge of the cuff up 1/4 inch and iron into place. Fold the cuff over the seam, making sure to cover it by about 1/8 of an inch and pin into place. Top stitch the cuff to the sleeve from the right side, sewing as close as possible to the fold. You can also add another row of top stitching at the bottom of the cuff for a crisper edge. To sew the hem, turn up the raw edge and iron into place. Then turn the folded edge up again and iron again. You can make the folds bigger or smaller, depending on how long you want your shirt to be. On my final hem, the first fold was about 1/2 inch and the second was around 1 inch, so a little over 1.5 inches total. Then pin the hem into place. Sew close to the fold all the way around the top, and once you reach the starting point, back tack to secure the seam. And that's it, we're done. So this is how the top turned out. For reference, I wear a size small or medium in women's tops and used a size large men's shirt, so keep that in mind if you decide to make this top. I got the original men's shirt at the Goodwill bins where I paid around $2 for it, so not only is this top cute and comfortable and machine washable, it's also inexpensive and perfectly color coordinated to wear with jeans, and I do love matchy-matchy. So I hope this inspires you to try your own refashioning project. Thanks for watching and happy upcycling!